Hey everyone, today we're going to be talking about the Blissey V deck that I play in the expanded format. This is an expanded list, obviously. If you want to play Blissey in standard, I'm not the guy to talk to on that regard. I have played several hundred games of Blissey in expanded, though. One of my favorite decks to play in the black and white Chilling Rain format. Got a little bit worse, obviously, Evolving Skies, because Dragon Knight could not be a worse matchup for this card. But this deck still can do quite a few good things. It has an okay matchup against Shadow Rider as long as you don't get cheesed. It can beat Meloetta Genesect. It can beat a lot of the decks that are around right now. They just can't deal with it. And I have two versions of the deck I'm going to go over today. One of them is a more teched out version, and one of them is a less teched out one. We're going to start with the more teched out ones, the one that I play more often. There is also healing variants of Blissey. If you think you want to play a healing variant of Blissey, go ahead. It's just not my favorite version to play the deck. I don't think the healing is necessary with Blissey, except in very small cases. If you also want to tech in a supporter to, like, something like Cook or Center Lady to put a healing card in here, very well, you can do that. I just don't think it's the best option. So we're gonna get started here. We start off with 4 copies of Blissey V. Using this Blissful Blast, it does 10 plus 30 for each energy attached to this Pokemon. Not energy card, energy, so double colorless is very good. If you do any damage with this attack, you may attach up to 3 energy from your compile to this Pokemon. Old players of the game may think of this Blissey and be like, that is kind of familiar. And you'd be right. It's very similar to the Happy Chance Blissey, if the image doesn't want to load. From Mysterious Treasures, that does 20 plus 10 for each energy, and before doing damage you could search and attach an energy to it. Now obviously this was limited to only basic energy, and it did before. This kind of has to be after, otherwise you could do like turn 1 270 damage, and that'd be ridiculous, so they limited it to being after. And Blissey's going to use its huge 250 HP to just tank hits and build up a lot of energy. After one hit, you're going to have roughly about, if you get the ideal turn off, you're going to have like 7 energy on, and then you can attach the next one for turn. You've got 8 energy on, and you're one hit KOing Vs, and a lot of the tag teams are in range then if you have like powerful colorless attached, stuff like that. It's also got an ability, I guess I should talk about, Natural Cure. You don't see it too often. Whenever you attach an energy from your hand to this Pokemon, it recovers from all special conditions. There are some matchups that you will run into where they'll be bumping your stadium and you can get a use of Natural Cure off because your Natural Cure is going to be turned off by your own Path to the Peak. But, it's an option. You can use it sometimes, rarely though. It's a great card though. Blissey's great, and that's what we're going to be building around today. We play 2 copies of Professor Juniper. Discard your hand and draw 7 cards. Best discard and draw supporter in expanded. You could argue for more copies, but this list is of course the teched out version, so I want to go more on the tech supporters and less on the Junipers. Juniper's still very good though. You're never going to feel bad to start it. Great card. Absolutely play it. 1 copy of Professor Kukui. This is starting to get to some of the tech supporters already. Draw 2 cards. During your turn, your Pokemon's attacks do 20 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. So you could play Leon in here, and Leon works. I just prefer Professor Kukui. I like being able to get that draw in an emergency. You could honestly play even both in here, but like I said, I prefer Professor Kukui. It's a great card, allows you to hit an extra 20 damage. This deck is all about just hitting big numbers, so you need to a lot of times just scale your damage up in any way you can, whether it be attaching extra energy or tools or Professor Kukui. Scaling damage is great, but you also want that ability to draw, which is why I played over Leon. We have 1 copy of Avery, another tech supporter here. Draw 3. If you drew any cards in this way, your opponent discards Pokemon from their bench until they have 3. This card is sneakily great. You don't want to play it if your opponent's going to discard Pokemon that you've already damaged and you want to gust up, obviously, but it's great for denying your opponent lots of resources. The Inteleon engine, despite not being that good in Expanded, is everywhere in Expanded right now due to its, prominence in Standard, so knocking your opponent's Sobbles off of their bench. A lot of times with the Skyfield decks, if you run into like an Eternatus Dark Box going after the Calyrex decks, you can limit their bench and hurt their damage output severely. You can run into Meloetta Genesect and just repeatedly Avery until you find your Fabas, and they have a hard time drawing their pieces back. Avery's a great card in here. I would not build the deck without Avery. 3 copies of Marnie. Maybe wondering why we're going heavier on the shuffle draw than we are on the Junipers, just since the deck is a discarding deck. you're generally going to be able to get Battle Compressor off turn 1 or 2 or 3 energy in the discard pile off. Marnie is great. Each player shuffles a hand, puts it on the bottom of their deck. You draw 5, your opponent draws 4. It sounds horrible when you say it. Marnie is great for winning immediately. If you can get 3 energy in the discard pile, attach an energy for turn, Marnie, Path, and get those energy on, you win about half of those games that you do that. That it sounds horrid, and it is. But that's the state of Expanded with no turn 1 going first supporter. Marnie just often wins you the game straight out because it's just such a ridiculously broken card, especially when combined with other limiting aspects. And when you're putting your opponent to a measly hand size, removing all their abilities for access to then a Crobat, and essentially having a Pokemon ready to hit at least 210 damage on the next turn, your opponent's really got to get a response then and there, otherwise they just lose the game. 1 copy of N. You could play Roxanne in this, I just think N's better. Each player shuffles his or her hand and puts it into their deck, then they draw a card for each of their remaining prizes. You win a lot of games with this deck with N in the late game. It can work in the beginning of the game, obviously, just to get you a new hand. It's mainly for the late game, though, when your opponent's down to like 1 or, well, they're not going to be down to 1 prize. They're going to be down to 2 prizes, except for very rare cases with like ADP taking an extra prize. So, like, you're going to, shuffle them down to, like, a 2 or 1 card hand, hit them, charge up. It's great. Absolutely great. I would not play the deck without N or Roxanne. I just think N's better. 1 copy of Guzma here. Switch one of your opponent's bench Pokemon with their active. If you do, switch your active with one of your bench Pokemon. Usually decks run more Guzma. We're playing a split here with another Gusting supporter. And the reason is because a lot of times you don't want to switch. And if you do want to switch, you sometimes have to play around it. Sometimes you're just going to play Guzma with 1 Pokemon in play, and it's not going to matter. But a lot of times you have your active Blissey built up, but your bench Blissey is not. And because this deck cannot play Floatstone efficiently, Guzma can sometimes not be the right answer. And that's why we play 1 copy of Lysandre. Switch one of your opponent's bench Pokemon with their active. Arguably the better Gus supporter in here, though Guzma does offer a way to get out of trapping situations and all of that. Lysandre allows you to switch one of your opponent's bench Pokemon with their active. Great artwork on the supporter, by the way. I absolutely love it. Just probably the best Gusting supporter for here. There's arguments when Serena comes out to play that in here as well, because it's not actually bad at all with the deck's discarding synergy either. Lysandre is absolutely great, though. I would not cut it for any reason. It has been terrific. It's the best Gusting card in here. Arguably even play 2 if you really want to consistently hit it, but we have Verse Seeker, so I don't think that's necessary. 1 copy of Guzma and Hala. Search deck for a Stadium, reveal it, put it into your hand, and you may also discard 2 other cards from your hand, search a deck for a tool and a special energy. The Stadium is obviously important because we're playing Path to Peak. The tool is obviously great with Fury Belt, and then also the energies are obviously very much important. One great thing you can do with Guzma and Hala is search out these energies, or discard these energies, and search out, like if I discard 2 DC from my hand, search out a 3rd DC, and then I have like a 3rd one discard pile off of either like an Acro Bike, a Battle Comp, etc. It can, very quickly get to be a 3 energy Blissey without even having to just strictly Battle Comp. So it can thin out your hand a little, get you the pieces you need. You definitely want to have Path of the Peak. Fighting Fury Belt's great. It's a great card. 1 copy of Faba. This is one of the techie supporters in here. It's one that just wins you matchups against Meloetta Genesect. If you just get rid of their first 2 energy, they start becoming unable to KO Blisseys very quickly. And once you get rid of 3, that's like, okay, it's game over for them. So Faba's an absolutely great card. Also against Ultra Necrozma and against ADV Dragonite. Getting rid of those very important special energies, sometimes even against Mad Party have used this, back when that was a force to be reckoned with in the Team Up to Chilling Rain meta, and it's just absolutely incredible getting rid of energies. You just don't want to see them ever, so just tell them to be gone. Sometimes getting rid of tools can be good too, in rare cases, and then Stadium cards, a lot of times Path the Peak, you want yours in play, you don't want Chaotic Swell in play, so Faba can get rid of a Swell out of play. We have 1 copy of Pokemon Ranger, strictly almost for the ADP matchup. I have used it in such as some strict item locking decks before to take a victory there, and also it helps. I've faced decks with basic blockers. Something like the most recent example would be Ice Cube from Evolving Skies, but a more famous example might be Jolteon from Generations, which prevents all damage done to it by basic Pokemon. they're playing that in like a Mewtwo Mew deck, something like that, you can remove that effect and then hit right through. It's a great card. It works in this deck, especially because of how much Verse Seeker support you have. So worst case scenario, you just get it off your second battle compressor and toss it away. Have one copy of Lusamine, a relatively new addition to the deck. I used to play an AZ in here, but AZ almost never saw play, honestly, in this deck. This allows you to put 2 in any combination of supporter and stadium cards from this card into your hand. And what this basically is, obviously you can get back supporters, so it's not bad in the early game. If you just have absolutely nothing, use a supporter, don't get anything again, you can, get back your supporters. And it can be used late game to like recover extra copies of supporters to increase your consistency. Mainly here, though, it's for path. You want to be able to play the first path but not lose the stadium war, and that's a big deal. So Lusamine allowing you to get 2 paths back from this pile, absolutely incredible. One copy of Team Rocket's Handiwork, flip 2 coins for each heads, discard the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck. Now, I say this in every video where I talk about this card, it is the worst card in Expanded, as in it is absolutely awful. You're going to flip like 1 heads out of 30 coin flips, and you're going to feel really bad about it. But it does give you an alternate win condition. I have used this plenty of times where my opponent just went absolutely insane. Like, I was playing a Dark Box deck, and they went down to like 7 cards on turn 1 going second, just Oko to Blissey in the active, and it's like, alright, I am no longer going to win this game by traditional means. I cannot, hit back into them and get back into the game. Team Rocket's Handiwork gives you an out for that, where you have a potential win condition, and it has been used several times. It's also good if your opponent is specifically searching for a resource to counter your Blisseys. That's just like an auto loss scenario. You can use the Handiwork to just try to mill that out of the deck. It has happened a few times where my opponent's like looking for their last Versus Seeker for win, and I'm able to just hit them with a super powerful Blissey while milling cards from their deck to threaten that piece out. So those are the supporters. Again, it's a more techie line. There's lots of supporters you could throw in here. I originally had a Hue in the deck, which was quite good. If you would play Hue, I'd definitely go down to 3 Blissey, because you want to increase the number of mulligans your opponent's going to take, because Hue is a great turn 1 supporter more than anything else. But it did work quite well, especially you'd get to like discard like 8 or 9 cards off your opponent's hand with Hue. It's quite effective. A lot of times they just scoop on the spot, so Hue is quite good. AZ was in here for a while, but I don't think it's great. Could play something like Sharon's Care, Acerola, if you wanted some more healing. Again, Cook and Center Lady also provide a form of healing. Serenelle, when that comes out, is another form of gusting that you could play. There's no bad supporters besides like something like Fantina, that's literally unusable, but like there's almost no bad supporters in a way for this deck, because this deck can play like every supporter and make it work. It's so versatile, and I love that about it. 4 copies of Acro Bike, look at the top 2, put 1 into your hand, discard the other card. Just great to discard your energies out of play, discard your supporters for Verse Seeker ability, and get a card that you hopefully want to play forward for maximum consistency. Could replace this with Trekking Shoes, but I generally think Acro Bike is better. 4 copies of Battle Compressor. Search your deck for up to 3 cards and discard them. You're going to use this to discard your energies in the early game, especially. You're going to discard your supporters after that. You want to pick out things like a Lysandre to have your gusting options. Sometimes picking out Pokémon Ranger if you're not going to need it in a matchup, and Handiwork if it's not going to be the most useful card in a specific game. You want to just lower your deck inconsistencies with Battle Compressor while also getting your energy in the discard pile. It's great. 4 copies of Trainer's Mail. Look at the top 4 cards of your deck. Reveal a trainer you find there, except for Trainer's Mail, and put it into your hand. Shuffle the other cards back. Sorry, the image isn't loading. So this is just great. I would not play this deck without Trainer's Mail. You just want to be able to, with Acro Bike and Trainer's Mail, and Battle Compressor, and Versus Seeker. Well, I just realized it's the XY era, isn't it? This deck really just does reflect the XY era. You're just going to get all of your trainers you need. The deck plays like 40 trainers, so it's a good thing to play Trainer's Mail. 4 copies of VS Seeker. Put a supporter card from your discard pile into your hand. Don't run less than 4. You are super decked out on supporters. It is great in every single game. You're going to want 3 or 4 versus Seeker. 2 copies of Heavy Ball. Search deck for Pokemon with retreat cost of 3 or more. This is also arguable for a spot for Quick Ball, because Quick Ball would obviously discard your energy from play as well, and I don't think that's bad in the slightest. I just think Heavy Ball's worked fine. Generally, I don't need the help of Quick Ball, though I can see why you might. So if you want to switch it out for Quick Ball, if that works better for you, go ahead. Just allows you to search your Blisseys, and that's all. This is also a completely cuttable card, so if you want to just go without it and just hope you find your Blisseys, but there's been scenarios where I want a second Blissey in play, against like Shadow Rider and the like, so I don't get a Poltergeist knockout with no response, and Heavy Ball's been there to help me. One copy of Switch. Seems like kind of a dumb card to play in Expanded. You almost never see Switch, do you? This is the Harkle Silver Art. I absolutely love this one. So what we're using this for is because Blissey is kind of thick. It's got a 4 retreat cost. So realistically, you're not going to be able to pivot your Blisseys easily. Obviously, you can retreat energy off, and I do that plenty of times. You're going to retreat energy off to, retreat your Blissey, but a lot of times you want to just switch them. In addition to that, it also gives you an option for Guzma. If you do have 2 Blissey in play, usually by necessity, you're going to have to Guzma and then switch sometimes to get that KO off. It's great to have in the deck. It's been an absolutely useful card. I wouldn't play a second copy, but I wouldn't play the deck without it. Switch has been useful here. Again, you can't play Floatstone, so you need something to give you a little bit of a help in that regard. 3 copies of Fighting Fury Belt. I've seen other versions of the deck run Cape, so we'll go over Cape of Toughness real quick. There we go. Basic Pokemon that's not a GX gets plus 50. Obviously, this give your Blissey a nice 300 HP. Generally, I haven't found that to be a very relevant number. 280 is an extremely big number in Expanded, hitting all the tag teams and the like. 290 is kind of in that sweet spot with 300, where they're getting hit for the same bracket of damage for the most part. Fighting Fury Belt increases your HP to 290. The main thing I like it for, though, beyond that, is also that it gives you 10 more damage. And I found this to be a lot more relevant. I've tested Cape for a bunch of games, and Cape just wasn't really getting there, because a lot of times you just want to do, like, turn 1, like, 70 damage with Fighting Fury Belt attached, and that's great. Fighting Fury Belt's been absolutely great. I think it's the better tool. From hundreds of games of experience, that's what I can tell you. 4 copies of Path of the Peak. Pokemon with the rule box in play have no abilities. Ideally, I'm going to say this, ideally this deck wants to play Silent Lab. Silent Lab is a lot better in this deck. It gives you a lot better matchup spread against everything else in the meta besides one single deck, and that being Shadow Rider. Unfortunately, Shadow Rider is one of the most popular decks and arguably one of the best decks in Expanded right now. So you need to respect it, so you play Path of the Peak. With Lusamine in, I could potentially play 1 Silent Lab, but I don't think it's particularly necessary. Path of the Peak generally does the job fine against most decks. You're going to be punished a lot for not playing Silent Lab, because decks that use Execute, decks that use Unknown and the like are going to just have a heyday ruining your day. So Path of the Peak feels honestly awful. If you want to play Silent Lab, I completely get it. With this deck, though, I'm going Shadow Rider hunting, so we're playing Path. 1 copy of Computer Search allows you to discard 2 cards from hand. Search your deck for any card. Absolutely great. There's no better A-spec in this deck. 4 double colorless is the best energy. Just gives you an extra 60 damage when it's attached. I have the Harkle Silver print, which is very nice here. 4 copies of Powerful Colorless, the second best energy in the deck. This gives you plus 50 damage because it makes your colorless Pokemon do 20 more damage when it's attached. Like the old Strong Energy. 1 copy of Capture Energy gives you an energy out to search your Pokemon, so if you're item locked, you can still find a Blissey. 1 copy of Gift Energy is new. I cut down from 2 capture to 1 to add Gift in recently, and it's been pretty good. If the card that this Pokemon is knocked out, if the Pokemon this card is attached to is knocked out from an attack, you draw cards until you have 7 in your hand. Allows your opponent to prevent you from ending locking you. A lot of times your opponent's going to take advantage of your fast starts by ending you and KOing a Blissey and hoping you don't have much of a response. Gift Energy can help stop that. It's new testing, though. There's some better energy cards you could potentially put in if you want to hit some specific matchups, but I think Gift Energy is quite good. 2 copies of Double Turbo. This provides plus 40, because it's 2 colorless, which would be 60, but it minus your damage by 20, so it's essentially plus 40. If you really wanted to just go full bore consistency, just cut Capture, cut Gift, 4 Double Turbo, there is, the most amount of damaging energies you can do. What I would not play this deck without is 1 copy of Weakness Guard Energy that just provides no weakness. Being tanky is really cool until your opponent hits weakness, and then it's all for naught. So you want to be able to remove that weakness in matchups like fighting decks, something like a Colossal if you run into that. Can't think of any fighting types. Marshadow sees play here and there, obviously, as a type spec attacker. So Weakness Guard helps you beat those decks. And then the other energy I would not play without is 1 copy of Fire Energy. And you may be wondering, why would you play a basic energy? That seems dumb. You have all these, special energies that, like, even something like Draw Energy that literally just draws you a card is still better because it's still, well, it's not going to load. There it is. This is still technically better because it's giving you, bonus, right? Why would you play a basic energy? And the reason is because of locking energy attacks. And there's tends to be a few of them. I can't think of any of the ones off the top of my head besides the most obvious elephant in the room, Shadow Mist. If your opponent were to just Shadow Mist you and you had no energy attached, or they Faba'd an energy, you would just lose the game straight out. But Fire Energy means that if they try to Shadow Mist and be petty, they're going to pay dearly for it, because you will attach this and instantly get 4 energy on after your Blissful Blast. Oh, I guess another example, deck that doesn't see too much play nowadays, did take 3rd at a championship in Japan a couple of years ago, is the Hanshiro GX meme deck with the Ruler of the Night. And the second you throw out the Fire Energy and attach 3 more energy to you, they just scoop. So auto win against this otherwise annoying deck to play against. I would just auto win this. So nice there. The reason you play Fire above the other energy counts is because Fire has the most kind of stadium support. 'Cause the only time you'd be able to take advantage of energy types is with stadiums. With the introduction of the new stadium that's Lake Acuity, if we want to bring that up real quick, makes that your Pokemon with water fighting take 20 less. If this does see play in some deck in the future, you might want to switch to like water or fighting. I would probably say fighting's better in that case. What Fire does allow you to do, though, is when you play against a Fire deck that's using a Stadium, which is the most common stadiums that you're going to see using energy types, you can use something like a Heat Factory or a Scorched Earth or a Giant Hearth to get bonus effects from them, allowing you to like search an energy, discard it, and draw cards, etc. So there is the teched out Blissey list. We're going to move over, and I'm only going to talk about the differences where they specifically matter. You can see, first of all, we cut all of the garbage out of the supporters. I'm not going to say garbage, just kind of the extras. Here's a look back with Avery, the Team Rocket's Handiwork, Lusamine. We cut a lot of the text out to go more straightforward. So you increased copy of Juniper to 3 Juniper now, and then for the supporters, the rest of them are just still the same counts of the same ones they were before. We did go, though, for Order Pad. Flip a coin of head, search deck for an item, reveal it, put it into your hand. And simply what you do this for, you could again play Trekking Shoes. It just gives you a 50% chance on every point you find it to find your Battle Compressor for turn 1. And then besides that, the only other thing that changed was that the energy is playing 2 captures because you took out the heavy balls for order pads, so we needed that space there. This is a more consistent list, though, if you just want to every game get that turn 1 Blissful Blast for just get your 3 energies on and like 95% of games, then you're like never going to have to worry about it. It's just going to be in your first turn, because then you have like incredible like 12, 13 outs to like finding it, not even including supporters. So anyway, though, that is the Blissey deck. Go second, hit a big number, and then hit a bigger number next turn. It's very simple on the strategy of it, but the use of the supporters in the teched out version will really make the player who knows how to use the deck win more often than not. It really proves your skill in, other than just, Faba Melgen and win. You're going to see a lot of skill turn out in these matchups where you have to know what supporter to use when with your Verse Seekers and don't spend them. So yeah, that was the Blissey deck. Hope you enjoyed this video. Check out my other deck list profiles for expanded. Maybe you like tabletop content. I also do that. Thank you all so much for watching.